Last year, I bought my first house, and I quickly discovered it was in far worse shape than I thought. That's on me for waiving my initial inspection. And at the beginning of the project, I spent far too much time sitting around just looking at this 175-year-old pile of termite-damaged wood that I bought, thinking about the consequences of my actions.
The backyard's full of bricks again.
But just recently, we passed a very exciting milestone where I'd actually be upset if I showed up and realized my house had burned down. Last week, we got the whole house insulated, so you might think we're ready for drywall, but we actually have to take a quick step back. This is the thick stuff. It's 15-inch deep, R49 insulation up in the roof. Next step, we gotta bring some material up. So this is rigid insulation. Unlike the fiberglass bats, you can see it is a rigid board. This is something I wanted to do before installation, and honestly, I just forgot. But let me explain the situation. On the soffit here, if you look out, it's hard to see, but all that dark material there, that is a vented soffit. So there's tiny little holes that allow airflow up into the roof cavity. Now, for the most part with this roof, there is a 1 to 2 inch vent cavity above all these bats, and airflow comes up all the way up the roof and it exhausts out a ridge vent. That's the ideal case to vent your roof. It regulates the temperature so the roof deck stays cold so that you don't have ice damming and snow melting and then refreezing. And it also helps to dry out any condensation that might hit that cold roof deck in the wintertime of the humid interior air. So why is it then that we are removing the bats here? Well, the first thing to point out, right up there is the soffit vent. So there's blocking and then a 2-inch gap, and that's where the soffit vent air comes out. And you can see it's already been spray foamed. So we're not getting ventilation up here. And the reason for this is because of these skylights here. When you look into that bay, there's no gap at the top there to let airflow continue, of course, because we have a skylight. So that means this bay is unvented, and I explored the option of drilling into the side up here so that this air can get over to a vented bay, but it's not really realistic because this is a triple 2x10 and it's roof structure, and I don't want to compromise that. So if we're not venting that bay, what do? Before I took this insulation out, there could be a big problem where that hot humid air can get into that bay and it has nowhere to go, so it hits the cold side of the roof sheathing, it condenses and releases all that water from this moist air, and then that water has nowhere to go. And over time, that leads to mold, that leads to deterioration of materials, and it's just not great. So one solution that I'm gonna try today is to put up 2 sheets of that rigid board insulation, which has a total insulative value of R26. So that means I'm able to have half rigid foam insulation, half fiberglass. And when I put that insulation tight to the roof deck and I spray foam all the edges, that creates a great air seal. And now, instead of that humid air hitting the cold roof deck and condensing, it's gonna be hitting warm insulation where it's not gonna wanna condense because the temperature will be above the dew point. Dew point is just a fancy term for the temperature a surface has to be for water to condense. And we're just trying to prevent condensation. That's the plan. I'm gonna cut these a little short, spray foam all the edges, and there's 2 bays we have to do, so let's get started. With some test fitting, I realized that the beads of spray foam between the roof deck and the rafters is preventing it from sitting flush. So I think I'm going to chamfer the top of this, and that'll also help when I spray foam later, help that spray foam actually sit up there tight rather than just falling out. That's sitting nice and tight. It could hold with just the spray foam, but I need something at least temporarily to hold it tight. To secure this to the roof deck and make sure it's tight up at the deck, I'm going to use a couple screws, and I'm just making sure here that the screw, if I drill it into the roof deck, you can see there it only goes in 1/4 of an inch, and my roof deck is 3/4 inch, so no chance I go through my roof. Very important. This kind of unvented roof detail, the air sealing is really important, because if any humid air gets up in between these layers or through holes where the screws are, then it can condense, leaving moisture, and there's like no breathability here. So if moisture gets trapped up there, it's just a recipe for mold and rot and all kinds of bad things. That's why generally the vented roof is safer, and this is kind of a last resort. To go the extra mile here, I'm also gonna tape where I put in a couple screws, just to make sure that that is airtight as well. Also, just a note, this technique is sometimes just called like the poor man's spray foam, because it's essentially the same as if you use like a 2-part closed cell spray foam up in your roof, but that stuff is expensive. They have to bring a whole truck out, and to just do 2 bays, it's just like not worth it. Doesn't really make sense. So this is the alternative. What's up? It's Editing Chris here, and I've had a goal for a while to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I think it'd be a magical Christmas gift. So if you've been enjoying this project, just make sure you're subscribed, like the video, helps me out. Also, I wanted to invite you, if you happen to be in the Philadelphia area. I have a solo exhibition at a gallery in Philadelphia. The opening reception is September 5th, and I would love to see you there. All the info you need is in the description of the video, so come hang out, and that's all I got. After a whole lot of air sealing, we're ready to reinstall the bat insulation. And one critical step here is I actually don't want to install this entire R49 bat, because that will stop the heat from reaching this rigid insulation. If we had all this might still be on the cold side of the insulation. And 2 of these boards is R26. So I can get away with cutting this R49 in half, and that means that this will be hotter, and I want it to be hotter because it will reduce the risk of condensation. And luckily this bat insulation is pretty easy to rip down. And some of this excess I might end up just stuffing around for soundproofing elsewhere. And I'm doing my best not to compress the insulation. There you have it, like nothing ever was done. I still have one more bay to do that exact same thing, but I think I'm gonna need a little bit more spray foam that I can bring tomorrow to finish that up. This morning I already got started with leftover insulation, packing all these bays right here. It's a mix of fiberglass and rock wool and just whatever's left. I have a couple little spots right there that I'll put this leftover insulation. And this was kind of the first priority, not something that I was originally gonna do, but because the bathroom is right there and I don't have like a powder room on the first floor, it'll be nice to just not hear it when someone runs upstairs to go to the bathroom here. Good news and bad news. So I thought these were 2-inch boards. They're actually 1.5-inch boards. So 2 together equals R19. And that's not quite enough because I want kind of half fiberglass and at least half of the rigid up at the roof deck. But luckily I had extra material that I thought I would return, but now it's kind of nice to have it. I ended up just doing 3 boards in this section, which brings it all the way up to, I think it's R26 or R28. I want as much insulation up at the roof deck as possible. So I did 3 boards here, Bad news is I'm gonna have to go back and do 3 boards here. But I guess the good news is doing 3 boards is better than 2. So all in all, I'm feeling a lot better about this unvented section of the roof. I'm super thankful that I've made it over a year on the job site without any major injuries to me or anyone who's worked on the house. I think that's a great success. But in this day and age, you have to look after your digital safety just as much as your physical safety, it seems. We often think that our data is ours and it's private. Whenever you sign up for a service on the internet or create a profile, you put all your information in and you just trust that it is private. And unfortunately, it's not. There are people out there called data brokers who will compile all of this information of different users and create a profile of you that they can sell to advertisers or even worse, to scammers, and basically put your information online for anyone to buy. This sounds bad already, and it is, because this can lead to identity theft or stalking or just people knowing things about you that maybe you would rather them not know. And that's where the sponsor of this video, Delete Me, can help. When you get started with Delete Me, they scan the web to find your information online and present it to you neatly in this dashboard, and even send you a report showing all the websites that somehow got a hold of your data, and they will go through and remove it from all those websites that they found. It's important to keep up with this internet hygiene regularly, so they do monthly reports to stay on top of it to help you stay protected. I like to use Delete Me because their interface is simple, the dashboard is easy to understand, and it's just nice to know that you have this service in the background helping to keep your data what it should be, private. When you're ready to get started, you can use the link in the description or go to joindeleteme.com/ChrisHytha to get 20% off consumer plans. Thanks again to Delete Me for sponsoring this week's video. Good morning. Today's Wednesday, and the city inspector is coming back for the insulation inspection. So on top of the work finishing up everything that needs to be done before drywall, this week's also big on coordination because nearly every trade has to come back to wrap things up before drywall. The plumbers were here this morning. They were putting this product called Structurolite underneath my fiberglass tub to add extra support. Of course, that has to be done before the walls are closed up. Next, the HVAC guy says his crew's coming today to connect the bath fans. And finally, the framers are coming back to add plywood to the north side wall, which is the one up against the brick party wall where we need some shear strength. I've been calling them all morning. They said they were gonna be here yesterday, and the communication is just falling apart there. I'm worried because if they don't show up this week, could delay drywall. That's the deal. For this morning, I'm just doing a little cleanup before the inspector gets here, and then we'll continue with some of the work that needs to get done. We are moving right along here. Inspector just showed up. It's pretty quick and easy. He just made sure that we had all our insulation, and we do. So inspection passed. In the meantime, I'm gonna finish up here. So I need to add one more rigid board here. And with that, I think I should be done for at least a while wrestling with big bats of insulation. I think that rigid foam is going to save me some trouble down the line. Let's shift gears now to our bathrooms. If you've ever tried to mount something to drywall, you've probably learned it doesn't work too great. And when you're dealing with floating vanities and shower doors, you need to be drilling into solid wood, and that's where blocking comes in. I'm gonna have the hand shower here from Kohler and also a vertical bar that mounts to, so I want to do blocking at the bottom and top of that, and I'll do a towel holder block over on this side. Oh, hey look, it's the HVAC guy. Shout out to my HVAC guy, John, for coming. Got this fan worked out. He first put it up and it was like way off center, and it was over here, right where the curtain rod will be. And that would have bugged me a lot, having it off center. So we got it centered, added some blocking over here to shift the fan out of the shower area. That's looking good. Upstairs, we had to reroute some things, but generally got that all sorted. All right, now back to the exciting stuff, the blocking. Originally, I wanted to do a towel bar, like a 24-inch towel bar, which would bring it here. The problem is I have this 30-inch door swing, so the door very likely would hit that towel bar. So it's super easy to just audible, and instead of the bar, do hooks that can be further over. It's great to just catch these little conflicts that will bug me in the finishes and just order the right products from the beginning. There's also a weird detail here that I didn't notice before, where this wall is supposed to just run flat, but we have framed in here this little bump back, so I got to deal with that too. Moving on to this shower door blocking, I'm gonna do one at the top, one at the bottom, and one in the middle. For my shower up here on the 3rd floor, I have a crazy idea of holding the ceiling back, running the tile up, and then having an LED strip that's concealed to illuminate that tile. And I'm doing like a 3D kind of fluted tile back here. So this light effect is just gonna make me happy every day, and I really want it. And specifically too, with this window on the side, it will really show the 3-dimensionality of the tile. Now, my main worry here is I don't know how you actually, if I frame out this little bump out, I don't think you're going to be able to screw drywall to the backside of this little bump. So I'm not really sure how I want to deal with that, but I think I'm just going to do it and figure that out later. Well, I got a bit sidetracked from the framing up here, I think because I'm procrastinating, but I was feeling a whole lot of airflow coming through here, and there was 2x blocking that I replaced with plywood. I took all this insulation out on this bay, spray foamed, and the blocking also was like a 1/4 inch in and it needed to be out. So I put shims, it was a whole thing. But now I got to get back to this situation up here. I'm not sure. I just got to think about it and look at it for a while to problem solve. All right, with that, I think we're done. We got a little 6-inch wide by 3.5 inch tall cavity. This really should have been a 2x4, but I only had 2x3s. We'll see over time, if this starts to warp. Hope not. Here's a better view of what we accomplished here. So drywall will come to here and then return up where it has a nailer and over where it also has a nailer. And that just creates that little bit of reveal so the tile can slip past the wall, have an LED on this face, which I got to wire up into here. It should be a cool effect. When you stand back, like if you're standing right here, you can just barely see the flat part, but one step back, you can't see the, where the tile terminates. It'll just go into light. I don't know about, moisture and all that humid air rising up there. I might end up regretting this because it might just be a lot of humidity up there and peeling paint that's really hard to access because it's so tight. But, we'll see. With the time left in the day, I was also able to wrap up the kitchen blocking. I'm using 3/4 inch plywood with pocket screws to create a solid backing for both my lower and upper cabinets. That's a wrap for Wednesday. Tomorrow we do have a little bit more framing, just some drywall blocking, and then we can do low voltage and keep calling the framers. Really stressed about it. It's very annoying if just one sub not showing up delays, you know, something like drywall, which I'm so excited about. So we'll see. Good morning. It's Thursday. Actually, I had to wear a hoodie coming to work. It's crazy. It's like 63 degrees. Pretty nice after a brutal summer. And good news, I did get a hold of the framers, and there's hope that they will come tomorrow to do the plywood, which we need to get done if we want to get drywall next Monday. This morning, I'm going to start off with some more low voltage. I didn't finish because I had to order more wire. I'm going to run one that comes out here, and this will be for a strip light on this kind of floating plane we want to build with some of the salvaged old flooring. And I'm also going to run another one up to this bay, which is different than the others because we have some HVAC. We couldn't raise it up and expose the joists in the same way, but I think that I'm going to want an LED strip there too. It's going to be like an L detail that wraps around. So let's get to it. And that right there is a job done. I swear, every day I'm like, oh, thank goodness I'm done dealing with this insulation. I'm not going to be itchy anymore. And then every next day I end up taking out insulation, moving it, cutting it, doing whatever. And this stuff is itchy. It's very itchy. Moving on to the third floor bath. Yesterday we framed out our nice little reveal detail up here. And now, to make it worth anything, we got to connect this wire up to there. It's so funny when I watch back this footage, just how much I have to say about connecting a wire. Just to simplify it for you, I'm linking up a low voltage LED transformer that I want to be accessible, because if that transformer goes, then the LED doesn't work anymore. So you got to be able to replace it. And I'm just trying to figure out where I want to put it, and eventually found a good spot. I was thinking a panel here, but now that I'm thinking about it, it might be even better if we just put the transformer up in this storage area, because here I could have an access panel, but that too you're gonna see and it's gonna annoy me. I think something up above this is gonna be the way to go. We just finished up with the low voltage for this future feature. I've mentioned it many times. I want to put glass up here. So all of this low voltage, the idea was just to get power into each of these joist bays so that I can do whatever I want with LED strips. And all of these run back to here, which will be an access panel up in this joist bay. We have 120 volts running up here that's connected to 3 switches, one on the first floor, one on the second, one on the third. So I'm pretty excited to get all of this in place. I put a bunch of blocks up here and drilled holes so the wires have a predictable spot. I also want to tell the drywallers to drywall up into these joist bays. It is a mess up in this third floor bathroom, but I have one more piece of low voltage to run. So in the renderings, you can see I want this big floating shelf that'll be above the vanity and the toilet. And this is the piece of wood. And I think it's so cool that it has this old marking from either the lumber yard or whatever it is. It's pretty cool. I'm doing the floating vanity, which reminds me I'm probably gonna need blocking for that, and the floating shelf. And I wanna have an LED on the back side of that shelf. So I was just getting the height. So we have the countertop height there at 3 foot, and then 10 inches to give clearance for the faucet, which is about 8 inches. And then the thickness of the shelf. And can you see the problem? That GFCI outlet is right where I want my shelf to be. So that is no good, and I'm really glad I'm double checking all these details because it would be really annoying to go to install this shelf and realize there's an issue. It can definitely move down and just be under the shelf, which I think is the way to go because it'll just be hidden under there and I think it'll be fine. And then the low voltage will probably come out from that side, run it up to the same transformer as this light there. So this shelf is going to be right here where I have marked, and I'll probably do like 2 brackets underneath the shelf. So I'm going to need some solid blocking. Now for the low voltage, it's going to be actually on the back side of the shelf, not underneath it. So I know it's going to be 1/2 inch of drywall here, and I want this wire coming out right around here, right at the same level as the shelf. Here we go. Quick check in with our list that's falling off the wall. We got the living room plain, low voltage, living room soffit, done. Both bathrooms, finished. Floor low voltage, frame the 3rd floor shower detail, we did that. Blocking bathroom 2 shelf, we got that. Blocking a glass floor, done. It's bright and early Friday morning. Framers are here wrapping up the plywood, which means we're on track for drywall Monday. Last task I have to do is blocking for this floating vanity here. And just like that, we have 1 plywood wall, 2 plywood walls, 3 plywood walls. This was spec'd by the engineer. These walls are right against the brick party wall, but these are my structural walls. Houses need shear support so they don't just fall over, and that's what plywood does. We just couldn't really realistically get it on the exterior of the house because it's butted up to the neighbor. Now, there would be one way to do it if we frame these walls on the ground, put the sheathing on, and then stood them up with the sheathing against the brick. We decided not to do that. Maybe it would have been a better way to go because this install made me kind of scared. So all that we did with the wires and ducts and nail plates and all of that stuff is really for drywall screws, which are usually like 1 inch, 1.25 inches, whereas these nails have to be longer for the structural shear support. I think they're like 2.25, 2.5 inch long. So any wires that are, you know, 1.5 inches back into the stud are potentially at risk. So I told them to be really careful when they're nailing to try to avoid wires, but even with that, I already found a couple spots where nails are within like 1/2 inch to wires. That's really scary. I think we'll know when we turn on the electric if circuits are tripping, you know, if there is a nail in a wire. Then we're gonna have to go back and find it, but hopefully that's not the case. That's a wrap on the week. This week was kind of a heavy coordination effort, but thank goodness all that is done and I finished up all my little tasks. So we're ready. We're ready for drywall. It's gonna be so satisfying to actually be doing the work that I'm gonna see every day living in this house. So with that, thank you for watching. Thanks again to Delete Me for sponsoring this week's episode. The sponsors of the channel are super helpful to keep me financially above water. Renovating houses is really expensive.